And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm ProfessorJRod. In this episode, the pig butchering scam. How ordinary people lose everything. Let's tap in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Technology Tap, the podcast where we break down today's technology, cybersecurity, and digital threats in a way that everyone can understand. I'm your host, Professor JRod. As always, thank you for spending part of your day with me. Whether you're listening while driving to work, taking a walk, exercising, or relaxing at home, I appreciate you being here. Today, we're doing something a little different. Normally, on this show, we'll cover several scams, cybersecurity topics, or technology trends in a single episode. And we also do some CompTIA questions, right? But today, we're dedicating the entire episode to just one scam. Why? Because this scam has become one of the most devastating financial crimes in the world. It has stolen billions of dollars. It has destroyed retirement. It has forced families to refinance homes. It has emptied college savings accounts. It has ruined lives. And the frightening part is that most people never heard of it. It's called the pig butchering scam. Now I know that name sounds strange. Maybe you never heard of it before. Maybe you're wondering, what kind of scam has a name like that? We'll explain it, where that name comes from in just a little bit. But I want to warn you out there, it's not a pleasant term. It comes from the criminals themselves. They compare their victims to livestock, someone they fatten up over weeks or months before taking everything they can. It's a cruel name because it's a cruel crime. And unfortunately, it's becoming common every day. One of the biggest misconceptions about scam is that they only happen to people who aren't familiar with technology. Nothing could be further from the truth. Some of the victims of this scam have included doctors, lawyers, college professors, military veterans, business owners, software engineers, financial professionals, people with master's degrees, people with doctorates, even cybersecurity professionals. Think about that for a moment. People who spend their careers understanding technology still have become victims. Why? Because this isn't really a technology scam. It's a psychology scam. The criminals don't hack your computer first. They hack your emotions. They don't exploit software vulnerabilities. They exploit human vulnerabilities. Loneliness, curiosity, hope, trust, greed, fear, excitement, love. Those emotions exist in every single one of us. That's why no one should ever say, this could never happen to me. Whenever I hear someone say that, I actually become a little concerned because confidence without awareness can be dangerous. The people who believe they're impossible to fool sometimes let their guard down. The people who understand that anybody can be manipulated tends to stay cautious. That's the goal of today's episode. Not to make you paranoid, not to make you afraid, but to make you aware. Knowledge is one of the best forms of protections that we have. Years ago, scams were relatively simple, right? Someone might call you pretending to be from the IRS. You receive an email claiming you won the lottery. Maybe you get a fake inheritance letter from another country. Those scams still exist, but today's scammers have become more sophisticated. They're patient, they're organized, they're well-funded. Many operate as part of an international criminal organization. Some even work out of buildings that look like normal office complexes. Employees sit at computers all day long. They have managers, performance goals, scripts, training manuals. Some organizations even operate 24 hours a day with different shifts. This isn't someone sitting in a basement trying random phone numbers. This is an industry worth billions of dollars. And like every successful business, they constantly improve. They study psychology. They learn what works. They test different messages. They analyze victim behavior. They refine their techniques. They're always adapting. Meanwhile, most of us are still using advice that worked 10 years ago. Don't answer calls from strangers. Don't click suspicious emails. Don't give out your social security number. Those are excellent rules, but today's scammers go much deeper. Today's criminals don't just steal information, they build relationship. Imagine receiving a simple text message. Hi, Sarah, are we still having dinner tonight? You replied, I think you got the wrong number. Instead of ending the conversation, the stranger says, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't bother you. Seems harmless, maybe even polite. A few more messages follow. You chat for a few minutes. The conversation ends. Nothing suspicious. A week later, they message you again, asking you how your day's going. Over time, they become a familiar name on your phone. Weeks turn into months. You begin talking every day. You learn about their life. They learn about yours. Eventually, they tell you they're making excellent returns investing. They never pressure you. They simply share their success. Naturally, you're curious. One day you ask, how are you making so much money? That question changes everything. Because from that moment forward, the real scam begins. And by the time you realize what's happening, it may already be too late. Throughout today's episode, we're going to dissect every stage of this scam. We'll explain exactly how it works, how criminals build trust, how fake investment websites convince victims that they're making money, how victims often send more money after they've already been scammed, and why intelligent people continue investing even when friends warn them to stop. We'll also discuss the emotional impact, because losing money isn't the only damage. Many victims experience embarrassment, depression, broken relationships, anxiety. Some never report what happened because they are ashamed. But there's nothing shameful about being manipulated by professionals whose entire job is psychological deception. The shame belongs to the criminals, not the victims. My goal today is simple. When somebody finishes listening to this episode, I want them to recognize this scam before it starts. I want them to hear a wrong number text and think twice. I want them to question promises of guaranteed investment returns. I want families to have conversations with parents, grandparents, spouses, and friends. Because one conversation today could prevent a financial disaster tomorrow. If this episode even helps one person avoid losing their retirement savings, the emergency fund, or their home, then every minute we spend together will have been worthwhile. So settle in, grab your coffee, and let's begin uncovering one of the most dangerous scams operating in the world. This is the Technology Tab. All right, so what exactly is pig butchering scam? The first time I heard the name, I honestly thought it referred to livestock or farming. It sounded like something completely unrelated to cybersecurity. Unfortunately, the reality is much darker. The term pig butchering comes from the criminals themselves. Imagine a farmer raising a pig. The pig isn't slaughtered immediately. Instead, it's fed over time. It's cared for. It's allowed to grow larger and larger before the farmer ultimately profits from it. Scammers borrow that concept. To them, the victim is a pig, or is the pig. The scammer spends weeks or even months fattening up the victim emotionally and financially before taking as much money as possible. It's disturbing, but understanding it helps explain why this scam is different from almost every other financial fraud. Most scams happen quickly. A fake email arrives, somebody clicks a link, money disappears. The pig butchering scam is the opposite. It is slow, it is patient, it is methodical. The criminals understand that psychologists have known for decades. People are far more likely to trust someone they know than someone they just met. So instead of asking for money on day one, the scammer builds by building trust. So let's compare two scams. The traditional scam, a scammer calls pretending to be from your bank. They tell you your account has been compromised. They ask for a password. Most people recognize something feels wrong. Conversation over. Scam failed. Now, compared with the pig butchering scam, a stranger accidentally texts you. You have a pleasant conversation. The next day, they ask how you're doing. A week later, they tell you about their job. They send pictures of their dog, ask about hobbies. Months pass. There's never been a request for money. In fact, they never mention investing. But by now, you're no longer talking to a stranger. You're talking to someone you believe you know. And that's exactly what the scammer wants. Let's think about our own lives. How do friendships usually begin? Often through small interactions. A coworker says hello every morning. A neighbor waves while walking their dog. Another parent talks with you at a school event. Nobody immediately asks for favors. Relationships develop naturally. That's exactly what these criminals imitate. They study human behavior. They know people trust consistently. If someone is polite every day for 3 months, our brain naturally begins lowering our defenses. It's how humans are wired. Trust helps society function. Without trust, we'll never build friendships, work together, or fall in love. Scammers weaponize one of humanity's greatest strengths. Here's something important to understand. The computer isn't the target. The phone isn't the target. The cryptocurrency wallet isn't the target. You are. Your emotions, your confidence, your dreams, your fears. Technology is simply the delivery system. Imagine if tomorrow every cryptocurrency disappeared. Will these scammers stop? No. They simply move on to another investment because they're not selling cryptocurrency. They're selling hope. Every pig butchering scam revolves around one powerful promise. This is an opportunity that most people don't know about. Maybe it's cryptocurrency, maybe it's foreign exchange, maybe it's gold, maybe it's artificial intelligence, maybe it's private investing. The investment changes. The psychology never does. The victim begins believing they discovered something exclusive. Humans beings love feeling like insiders. We like believing we know something others don't. Scammers understand this perfectly. One of the fascinating parts of these scams is how casually investing enters the conversation. Imagine you've been chatting with someone for 6 weeks. They never mentioned money. Then one day they said, "Hey, I had another really good day trading." That's all. No sales pitch, no pressure, no invitation. They simply plant an idea. A few days later, they mention they're taking a vacation. Another day, they show a new car. Eventually, curiosity takes over. You ask, "How can you afford all this?" You notice something? You asked. The scammer didn't. Psychologically, that matters. Because now the investment feels like your idea. The criminal didn't convince you. You convinced yourself. And that's incredibly powerful manipulation. The scammers begin showing screenshots, trading profits, luxury restaurants, hotel suites, vacation photos, expensive watches. Everything appears authentic. Some of it might even be real. Many criminal organizations spend money creating believable lifestyles because it's profitable in the long run. Think about legitimate business. Companies spend millions on advertising. Scammers do the same thing. Their advertisements just happen to be fake lives. People often ask, how can someone not realize what was happening? That's the wrong question. The better question is, what information did the victim actually have? Let's imagine you're the victim. For 2 months, you talked every day. Nothing bad has happened. This person has never asked you for money. They never threaten you. They remember your birthday. They ask about your family. They celebrate your accomplishments. Everything appears genuine. If somebody suddenly told you that person's trying to steal your retirement, will you believe them? Probably not, because your personal experience says otherwise. This is why these scams are so dangerous. The victim isn't ignoring warning signs. Many warning signs simply haven't appeared yet. Here's another fact most people don't realize. Many pig butchering operations are run by organized crime groups. We're not talking about one person sitting behind a laptop. Some operations involve customer service representatives, managers, technology teams, script writers, psychologists, money laundering specialists, recruiters, translation teams, fake investment platform developers. It's astounding how sophisticated some of these organizations have become. Imagine walking to an office building. Employees sit at rows of computers. Everybody has assignments. Some workers spend all day sending first messages. Others maintain relationships. Others manage fake trading platforms. Others handle the money. It's all a criminal business, and unfortunately, is very profitable. One question I hear often is, if they want my money, why don't they ask immediately? Because patience increases profits. Imagine you're trying to borrow $20 from somebody. Would you ask a complete stranger? Probably not. Would you ask a close friend? Much easier. Trust has value. Criminals understand that trust can be converted into money, sometimes an enormous amount of money. Victims have lost tens of thousands of dollars, $100,000, $500,000, entire retirements, homes, life savings, not because they made one bad decision, because dozens of small decisions gradually built to one catastrophic outcome. You'll be surprised how something as simple as a wrong number text message has become one of the most successful entry points into $1 billion fraud operations. You might think criminals spend hours researching wealthy people, hacking databases, or searching for individuals with large bank accounts. Sometimes they do, but surprisingly, most of the time they don't. Many victims are found through something incredibly simple: a text message, a social media message, a dating app, or even what appears to be a complete accident. Let's start with one of those common entry points: the wrong number text. Imagine sitting on your couch after dinner, your phone buzzes, the message says, "Hi David, are we still meeting at the airport tomorrow?" You look at it, you think, wrong person, so you politely reply, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong number." That seems harmless. In fact, most people would consider that polite thing to do. A few seconds later, the stranger responds, "Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed. Thank you for letting me know." Again, nothing suspicious. They apologize, they're friendly, they're polite. Then they say something like this: "Since I interrupted your evening, I hope you're having a wonderful day." Most people don't think twice. Some never respond. Others simply say, "No problem." That's all the scammer wanted. They confirmed something important. A real person answered. You might wonder, why not simply advertise fake investments? Why bother pretending to text the wrong person? Because this approach accomplished several psychological goals. First, it lowers your defenses. You don't feel targeted. You don't think someone is trying to sell you anything. Instead, you believe you're helping someone who made an innocent mistake. Second, it starts the conversation. Think about real friendships. Most friendships don't begin with, "Hello, I'd like to invest your retirement savings." They begin with small talk. Scammers understand this. Here's another misconception. Many people imagine the scammer carefully selecting one victim. The reality is much different. Imagine someone sending the same message to 10,000 phones. Maybe only 300 respond. Of those 300, perhaps 50 continue talking. Out of those 50, maybe 5 eventually become victims. The scammer doesn't need everyone. They only need a few. That's why these scams are scalable. Technology allows criminals to send thousands of messages in minutes. Now let's move to another common hunting ground: dating apps. Think about why people join dating apps. They are looking for companionship, conversation, friendship, relationship, sometimes love. Scammers know this. They create attractive profiles, professional photographers, interesting biographies, successful careers, luxury vacations, perfect smile. Everything looks authentic. Sometimes the photo belongs to real people whose identity are stolen. Sometimes they're generated entirely by artificial intelligence. Victim has no idea. The scammer's profile is carefully designed. Maybe they're an entrepreneur, a successful inventor, a fashion designer, doctor, someone who appears educated, successful, stable, trustworthy. Why? Because people naturally trust those who appear accomplished. If someone presents themselves as financially successful, they're more likely to be believed later when they're discussing investing. The deception starts long before money enters the conversation. Now let's talk about Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Every social platform contains valuable information. Without realizing it, people often reveal where they work, where they vacation, their favorite restaurants, family members, birthdays, pets, hobbies, etc. Even when they're away from home, to most people, these are harmless posts. To scammers, they're intelligence reports. Imagine you posted, "Finally retired after 35 wonderful years." Your friends congratulate you. Scammers see something different. They think retired. Likely has retirement savings, probably has a pension, possibly owns a home, may have investment accounts. One innocent social media post can tell criminals far more than you intended. Many people assume professional network platforms are safer. Unfortunately, scammers have adopted. Someone sends you a connection request. They appear to work in tech, healthcare, education. You accept. Moments later, they begin discussing investing. Again, there's no pressure, just conversation. They casually mention how well their investments have been performing. The trap has been sent. Eventually, scammers try moving conversations away from public platforms. They might say, "I don't check Facebook very often," or "Let's talk on WhatsApp," maybe Telegram, Signal, or other messaging app. Why? Because these platforms provide greater privacy. Some offer encrypted conversations. Others make it harder for social media companies to detect suspicious activity. Once the victim moves, the scam becomes much easier to manage. Here's something interesting. Many victims later tell investigators, I knew something felt strange, but they kept talking. Why? Because nothing bad has happened. Imagine meeting a friendly neighbor. Would you immediately assume they're trying to steal your savings? Of course not. Trust develops through repeated positive interactions. That's exactly what scammers manufacture. One of the most effective techniques scammers use is consistency. Every morning, good morning. Every evening, hope you had a great day. Every weekend, any fun plans. These conversations may continue for months. Eventually, the scammer becomes part of the victim's daily routine. Psychologists call this familiarity. The more frequency we interact with someone, the more comfortable we become. Comfort eventually becomes trust. Trust eventually becomes influence. Artificial intelligence have made these scams even more convincing. AI can now help criminals write better messages, translate into dozens of languages, create realistic profile photos, generate believable conversations, correct grammar instantly. Years ago, poor spelling and awkward English often exposed scammers. Today, those clues are disappearing. A message generated by AI can sound remarkably natural. That's why focusing only on grammar or spelling is no longer enough. Instead, pay attention to behavior. Are they trying to build a relationship unusually quickly? Do they involve meeting in person? Do they eventually steer every conversation toward money or investing? Those behavioral patterns are often more revealing than the words themselves. What should you do? If you receive a message from someone you don't know, pause. Ask yourself, did I expect this message? Can I verify who this person is? Why are they continuing the conversation after realizing they contacted the wrong number? Most legitimate people apologize and move on. Professional scammers see every response as an opportunity. Or do what I do. Just say, hey scammer, and then they pretty much stop. All right. A scam that doesn't feel like a scam. Let's imagine something together. It's been 3 weeks since that wrong number text. You exchange messages almost every day. Nothing unusual has happened. No one has asked you for money. No one has asked you for your social security number. In fact, these conversations have been enjoyable. You talked about favorite restaurants, movies, travel, pets, family, sports, work, maybe even your favorite coffee. From your perspective, you're simply getting to know another person. The scam hasn't started. At least that's what you what you believe. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing trust is built through one dramatic event. It isn't. Trust grows through hundreds of tiny interactions. Think about your closest friends. Can you remember the exact moment you trusted them? Probably not. It happened gradually. A conversation here, a favor there, a birthday remembered, a difficult moment shared. The relationship grew naturally. Scammers recreate that exact process, only it's carefully planned. Here's something many victims report after the scam is over. They say, talking to them became part of my day. Think about it. Every morning you receive a message. Good morning. Hope you have an amazing day. During lunch. How's work going? During the evening. Did you have dinner yet? And the weekend. Any exciting plans? Nothing about these messages seems suspicious. They're friendly, consistent, reliable, and before long, you expect them. When your phone vibrates, you smile because you think it's your new friend. That's not an accident. That's exactly what the scammer wants. There's an interesting psychological principle called the mere exposure effect. In simple terms, people tend to like things they encounter repeatedly. The more often we see a face, hear a voice, read someone's message, the more familiar they become, and familiarity often feels like safety. That's why major companies advertise consistently. The more you see their logo, the more comfortable you become with the brand. Scammers apply the same principle to people. They become familiar, reliable, predictable, and eventually trusted. While you're enjoying casual conversations, the scammer is gathering information, not through hacking, through listening. Maybe you mention, I'm divorced, or my kids just left for college. Perhaps you tell them, I retired last year, or I've always wanted to travel. To you, you're making conversations. To the scammer, you're providing valuable intelligence. Every detail helps them understand what motivates you, what worries you, what excites you, what dreams you have. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to have everything in common with you? You love Italian food, so do they. You enjoy hiking. Amazing that they hike every weekend. You have a golden retriever. What a coincidence. They do too. Is that possible? Of course. Is it always true? Probably not. The technique is called mirroring. People naturally trust those who seem similar to themselves. The scammer isn't necessarily revealing their personality, they're reflecting yours. That's like telling me like you're a big Yankee fan. You telling me you're a big Yankee fan like I am, I'm probably going to trust you a little bit more if you tell me you're a Met fan. Another reason these scams work is because the scammer is almost always available. You send a message, they reply quickly. You have a bad day, they listen. You're excited about something, they celebrate with you. Need someone to talk to? They're here. Real relationships are messy. People get busy. They forget to text back. Scammers don't. Because responding to you is their job. Victims often mistake professional attention for a genuine affection. Eventually, the scammer begins sharing photos. Maybe it's a picture from a beach resort, a luxury hotel, an expensive dinner, a designer handbag, a sports car, a skyline view from the penthouse apartment. Notice something important? They aren't bragging, at least not obviously. Instead, they say things like, had a wonderful dinner tonight, or just relaxing after work. Their goal isn't to impress you. The goal is to normalize success. Slowly, your brain begins believing that person really is wealthy. And once you believe that, future conversations about investing feel more believable. Here's one of the most brilliant parts of the scam. Weeks pass. Still, no request for money, no sales pitch, no investment opportunities. Why? Because pressure creates suspicion. Patience creates trust. The scammers understand that if they wait long enough, you begin asking questions yourself. And that's exactly what they want. Imagine you've seen weeks of photos, luxury vacations, fine dining, business success, beautiful homes. One day you finally ask, how do you afford all this? Notice who introduced the subject. You did. Psychologically, that's incredibly important. The investment now feels like it's your idea. The scammer simply answers your question. This removes one of the biggest warning signs because nobody tried to sell you anything. At least that's how it feels. The scammer may even tell you, I usually don't share this with people, or I don't like talking about money. Those statements make them seem more trustworthy. People who constantly brag about wealth seem suspicious. People who appear reluctant to discuss it seem more authentic. Again, this isn't accidental. Every conversation has been carefully designed. By this point, you're not interested in the investment. You're emotionally invested in the friendship. Maybe it's in the relationship. Maybe it's friendship. Maybe it's mentorship. Maybe it's romance. Whatever form it takes. You don't want to lose it. And that's one of the most powerful psychological forces there is. People protect relationships, even when evidence begins to suggest something is wrong. Ironically, family members often recognize the scam before the victim does. A son might say, Dad, something doesn't sound right. A daughter might say, Mom, have you ever met this person? A friend asks, why are they always talking about investing? Unfortunately, by now, the victim trusts the scammer more than the warning. Not because they are rational, because trust changes how we interpret information. Once we believe someone is honest, we naturally explain away suspicious behavior. The stage of this pig butchering scam teaches us something profound. Trust is not proof. Just because someone feels genuine doesn't mean they are. Just because you've spoken every day for 3 months doesn't mean you verified who they are. Feelings are important, but verification is essential. That's a lesson we can apply not only to scams, but to nearly every online interaction. Here's something that surprises many people. The scammer usually doesn't ask for money. Instead, they convince you to ask how you can invest. That small psychological difference changes everything. Imagine you've been talking to someone for 2 months. You've seen photos of their vacation, luxury restaurants, watches, beautiful apartments. They seem financially successful. One evening they casually mention, today was another great day in the market. You respond, really? How much did you make? The scammer laughs, enough to take another vacation. Still, no pressure, no sales pitch, no links, nothing. The next day they mention another profitable trade. A few days later, another. Finally, you ask the question they've been waiting for. Can you teach me? That question is the turning point, because from that point forward, you believe you're seeking an opportunity, not being sold one. The scammer never claims to be a financial genius. Instead, it often says, I'm still learning, or my uncle works in finance, or my aunt has been investing for 20 years. Why? Because people trust recommendations. If someone says, my uncle is a successful investor, It feels more believable than I'm an investment expert. They're borrowing credibility from someone who doesn't even exist. Soon, the scammer says something interesting. Most people don't know this, or normally I don't tell anybody. Think about why that's so powerful. People love exclusivity. We like believing we discover something before everyone else does. It's why people line up for product launches. It's why investors search for the next big thing. It's why exclusive clubs exist. Scammers know this. They aren't selling an investment. They're selling the feeling of being an insider. Eventually, the scammer says, if you're interested, you can start with a very small amount. Notice the wording, not send me your life savings. Instead, maybe 100, maybe 250, maybe 500. An amount that doesn't feel dangerous. Most people think, even if I lose it, it won't ruin me. That's exactly what the scammer wants, because the first investment isn't about making money. It's about building confidence. Now comes one of the most sophisticated parts of the scam. The scammer directs you to a website. Maybe it's a cryptocurrency exchange. Maybe it's a foreign exchange trading platform. Maybe it's an AI investment portal. When you open the site, it looks incredible. Professional design, modern graphics, account dashboard, customer support, chat, charts, graph, balances, profit history. Everything appears legitimate. Many victims later said, I researched the website. Of course they did. But here's the problem. Professional appearance does not equal legitimacy. Today, almost anyone can build a website that looks like a real financial institution. Criminal organizations often invest thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars creating convincing platforms because the payoff can be enormous. After your first deposit, something exciting happens. You log into your account. Instead of seeing 500, you see 520, then 550, then 615. Every day, the balance grows. It's exciting. It's validating. You think, maybe this really works. But here's the truth. You're not watching your money grow. You're watching numbers change on a screen controlled by criminals. There's no reinvestment. There's no actual trading. There's no profits. The numbers are simply changed in a database. Imagine going to a spreadsheet and changing your bank account from 500 to 5,000. It looks impressive, but the money isn't real. That's exactly what's happening behind the scenes. Now here's the brilliant part. Suppose you invest 500. Your account now says you have 700. You ask, can I withdraw some money? The scammer smiles. Of course. You request $100. A day later, your money actually arrives in your account. Wait, what? If it's a scam, why would they send money back? Because this is one of the smartest psychological investments a scammer can make. By allowing a small withdrawal, they eliminate your biggest fears. You now believe the platform is legitimate. You tell yourself, if it was fake, I would have never received that money. Exactly. That's the point. The criminal just spent $100 to earn your complete trust. And they're expecting a much larger return later. The scammer might also show you other investors, testimonials, online communities, screenshots of profits, happy customers. Some of these are entirely fabricated. Others are fake accounts controlled by the same criminal organization. The goal is to convince you that many people are becoming wealthy. Humans naturally follow the crowd. If everyone appears successful, we assume the opportunity must be legit. Now that you're excited, you check your account every morning. The balance keeps increasing. Maybe you're already withdrawing a little money. Your confidence grows. You begin imagining, pay off the debt, retiring early, helping your children, traveling the world. The investment isn't just about money anymore. It's about becoming part of your future dreams. And once our dreams become attached to something, walking away becomes much more difficult. Notice how the relationship changes. The scammer no longer feels like a friend. They feel like a mentor. They congratulate you. They celebrate your profits, encourage your success. And when your balance increases, they say, see, I told you this works. They're reinforcing your belief, not with pressure, with encouragement. It's incredibly effective. Psychologists have studied something called commitment and consistency principle. Once people make one decision, they're more likely to make another similar decision. You invest $500, it worked. Then you invest $2,000, that works. Then $5,000, then $20,000. Each investment feels easier than the last one because your previous experience appeared successful. But remember, none of those profits were real. Only the deposits were. Eventually, many victims say something like this: I wish I had invested more in the beginning. That's one of the most dangerous thoughts in the entire scam, because now the victim isn't being persuaded by the scammers anymore. They're persuading themselves. And self-persuasion is often stronger than any sales pitch. All right, I think I'm going to make this into two parts. Right, so today we explored the investment stage of the pig butchering scam. We learned how criminals introduce themselves, present themselves as trusted mentors, create sophisticated fake trading platforms, display fictional profits, allow small withdrawals, and encourage victims to dream about financial freedom. But by the end of this stage, many victims believe they discovered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In reality, they're standing at the edge of the most devastating financial decisions they'll ever make. In part 2, we'll examine the moment everything changes. We'll see how victims begin investing tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, why the warning signs are ignored, and how scammers convince people to keep sending them money long after they should have stopped. If you found today's episode helpful and you'd like to continue learning, I created several resources to help you stay informed. My book, Scam Proof for Seniors, dives deeper into today's most common scams, how criminals think, and practical strategies to protect yourself, your finances, and your family. If you have parents, grandparents, or older relatives, I also wrote a guide specifically designed to help older adults recognize and avoid the scam that target them. It uses straightforward language, real-world examples, and practical advice that's easy to follow, making it an excellent resource to share with people you care about the most. I also put in together several low-cost resources to help you become more scam aware. You'll find it on my link tree, which will be in the show notes. A free scam prevention guide, links to my latest books and contents, and additional tools to help you protect yourself and your family. Whenever you're just beginning to learn about online safety or you want to stay current with the latest scam tactics, there's something there for everyone. You can find all of these resources at the link in the podcast description or on my link tree. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I really appreciate your support. I'm Professor JRod. We'll see you next time for part 2. This has been a presentation of Little Chacha Productions, art by Sarah, music by Joe Kim. We're now part of the Pod Match Network. You can follow me at TikTok at ProfessorJRod, that's JROD, or you can email me at ProfessorJRod, JROD, at gmail.com.